Good evening, Chair. Calls to order Legislative Session Day 23-017. I would ask you all to please stand for the pledge, followed by the opening prayer by Councilmember Bennett. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey God, thank you for allowing us another day to come together. I pray for forgiveness for all of our shortcomings as we do our best to support the community, and for guidance and vision and knowing what will be best to come next. I thank you for the example tonight in which my pants were not brought to me in the dry cleaning, but I had my khakis to put on, that you remind us that even when things are missing and not as they belong, there's always a way to supplement and make what can be done. Just guide us tonight so that we do our best in the next few weeks as we continue to finish out the remaining sessions before summer, and allow us to be the best of who we can be. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Agenda number 4, presentation proclamations, we have none. 5, consideration of petitions, applications, appointments, and nominations. Council appointment, Harford TV Advisory Board. May I have a motion?
Council President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment of David Anderson to the Harford TV Advisory Board.
Thank you. May I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the new appointment of David Anderson. Glad to see him in the audience with us this evening. Is there any discussion?
I know it
Ms. Dixon?
Mr. President?
Aye.
Mr. Guthrie?
is. Aye.
Mr. Penman?
Aye.
Mr. Riley?
Aye.
Mrs. Bullock-Saddles?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye.
There being 6 votes in the affirmative, 1 absent, the appointment is hereby approved. Mr. Anderson, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you to the council and Ms. Bullock-Saddles for the nomination. I appreciate it. For anyone who doesn't know, I'm working with the town of Bel Air, some media and corporate relations specialist, so I'll be representing the town on the Harford TV board. So thank you for the nomination and the approval. I appreciate it.
Thank you, and Mr. Anderson is he is extremely familiar to the council for his years of service at the Aegis, so thank you, sir. Agenda number 6, special presentations, Homecoming Project Incorporated. Council, it's our pleasure to welcome Caitlin Shepard, the Executive Director, forward. Absolutely. Good evening, ladies.
Thank you so much for having us.
Can you pull that mic a little closer? There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much for having us. It's an honor to be able to be here. And like you just said, my name is Caitlin Shepard. I'm the Executive Director of Homecoming Project, and I'm also a person in long-term recovery. I've been in recovery since June 22nd of 2014. And this is Zoe, who may introduce herself as well.
Hi, my name is Zoe Hudson. I am in long-term recovery as well, and I now work as a program manager at Homecoming. So yeah.
So I put together a presentation to teach you all a little bit about Homecoming and what we do. So Homecoming Project, we are a 501c3. We're a nonprofit organization here in Bel Air in Harford County. And we are an 8-bed, year-long abstinence-based recovery program for women and that are struggling from substance abuse. We were founded in 2006 by Robin Keener, which I know a couple of you have had the pleasure of meeting Robin Keener. It started in Abingdon many years before that, and she kind of took the program into her own and updated it and made it into an actual program that helped women to recover from substance abuse. The mission statement is to provide women with a comprehensive, family-oriented program of recovery from homelessness and substance abuse in a supportive residential environment. And we also have a board of directors as a 501c3, and we're grateful to have Jessica Boyle-Saddles on our board of directors. And thank you so much for the invitation to be here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about why homecoming is necessary and important. And I know a lot of you have already heard about the epidemic of substance abuse in this country, in Maryland, and in this county as well. So I put together some statistics that are not super fun statistics to talk about. This isn't a great topic to talk about. I like to say I wish I didn't have to have a job, that I could work myself out of a job, but unfortunately that is not happening anytime soon. The National Institute on Health estimated that over 43 million people aged 12 and older needed substance abuse treatment in 2021, and 2,799 people in Maryland died from unintentional intoxication in the year 2020. 84 of those deaths occurred in Harford County in 2020. We have a little lag in statistics that come out about these deaths and what is going on. It looked like in Harford County specifically, the deaths had decreased since 2020, but the data that's coming out shows that they are increasing a little bit as well if you compare the first 3 quarters of 2020 and 2021. So while we're making a lot of progress, continuing to support recovery and substance abuse treatment is incredibly important to keep this work going and moving forward and to keep saving lives. So substance use disorder affects individuals and families and society. It affects us financially, spiritually, emotionally. It affects every single part of our lives. If anyone has had people in their life or themselves that have struggled with this, they know. And so data from a SAMHSA survey in 2018 said that substance use disorder costs $118.5 billion annually in healthcare costs, $207 billion in productivity loss, and $98 billion in the criminal justice system. So a lot of money is going into this problem, whether we like it or not, basically. So according to the NIH, 40 to 60% of these people that go into treatment, they relapse after they get out. So these aren't great statistics for just getting into substance abuse treatment. And while that's a very important start into the process of moving along in your life and getting better, we've learned that continuing treatment is incredibly important. So with that kind of statistic, which when I was looking around to get actual numbers for this, which is another difficult thing to do, it says up to 85% of people relapse after an inpatient treatment. So what Homecoming does, we are an aftercare program after people go to an inpatient treatment. So we've learned that the longer people are able to stay in treatment, the better the chance of their outcome is. That this isn't a problem that just goes away if you can get these substances out of your system. It's a behavior change process. It takes time, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of learning how to live life without these substances in your system. And that's what we try to do after these people are able to get a little physically healthy in the first place. So to kind of compare what's going on nationally and financially with Homecoming Project, the average success rate of residents completing Homecoming is 80%, staying in recovery, so only 20% relapse after that. And the cost per day to keep a resident in Homecoming is $130 per day, and that includes food, shelter, and lots of services that I'm going to tell you all about in just a moment. So who does Homecoming help? As I was just telling you, that we are a center for women, so any women over the age of 18 with a primary diagnosis of substance use disorder. The majority of these women have gone to an inpatient treatment center, so they're detoxed, they are no longer using drugs or drinking alcohol. Most of these people, like 85%, come from treatment centers like Ashley or Harbor of Grace, where they stay in there for about 28 days. Sometimes, depending on your insurance, you get 5 days, 10 days, 14 days, which is unfortunate because, as we know, the longer you stay in treatment, the better your outcome is. Some of our other residents come from hospitals, the criminal justice system, or just from people in the community referring them to us. Most of the people that come into Homecoming, about 85%, are either from Harford County or from treatment centers within Harford County. If they're not from this area, they're usually from surrounding areas or have family or other ties to the county. And then we do an interview process with every person that comes in, determining whether they want to be in recovery, if they're willing to do the work they need to do in order to complete a program like ours. Our program is not a short program, and it's not an easy program. So we kind of talk to them to figure out what their goals are and if they are a good fit for our program. And we average about 16 to 22 residents a year. As I said, we have 8 beds. So depending on how many people stay and how many people graduate, that's kind of the average in there. And then to date, we've helped over 300 women since 2006. So what's special about Homecoming is we provide the daily structure that women need in early recovery. We've learned that just kind of letting people go into treatment and come out and do whatever they want to do doesn't really have great outcomes. People need structure, they need to be guided in what they're doing each day, they need help, they need support in order to be able to continue staying in recovery. So we engage residents in services which reconnect them with society, because usually addiction is a very isolating disease. People have not been contributing to society. They've been either by themselves, they've been homeless, all different kinds of situations that people come into the program with. And so we try to reconnect them with what's going on in their community, with their families, and things like that, and their self-esteem. So we provide case management, life skills groups, and education sessions, as well as a lot of other supports, including getting them connected with in-person counseling as well. And then our program is structured into levels. So our residents come in on a blackout period where they don't have access to phones, they don't have visitation for a little while until they get settled into the house, they get a job, they get a sponsor in a 12-step program, and are working those steps, and service positions in the 12-step program as well. So they kind of gain more freedoms and responsibilities as they move up through these levels in the program. And that's something that's a little unique with Homecoming as well. Like, there's a whole process that residents go through to move through that program. We also have staff available like 24/7, so they're not unattended in the house. We know what's going on with the residents, where they are, what they're doing, all of that kind of stuff. And then we also provide aftercare and relapse prevention and support to alumni after they graduate our program. And so to tell you a little bit about our case management, it's a weekly case management session, and Zoe is our case manager. So they meet face-to-face. Our office is attached to the house. So we sit down with each resident when they come in and figure out basically what mess they have going on that they need to work through, whether it's court, do you have health insurance, do you have custody issues with your children, do you have family stuff, and we prioritize that as to what's most important, what do you need to work through. Because a lot of people go into treatment with a huge pile of mess, and they come out and that's still waiting for them when they get out, and they don't have the tools necessary in order to deal with those things, and they relapse. So we kind of sit down with every person and help them work through those things, and also are teaching them how we're doing that so they learn how to do that on their own and gain those skills in order to feel like they can do that for themselves. We coordinate counseling sessions with them. We help them to get jobs within the first month that they're there. And thankfully, since we've been around for 16 years now, we have a pretty good reputation with a lot of businesses. We're located right by the hospital. So a lot of people sometimes even call us when they need employees. And because if they stay home from work at Homecoming, we make them stay in bed. So if you're too sick to work, you're too sick to be out of bed, so you stay in bed. So our employees, our residents show up to work usually because they don't want to stay in bed. So it's really teaching people how to have responsibility and accountability as well, and that helps them learn that they're capable of doing these things. So getting them into doctor's appointments, a lot of the people haven't had checkups or anything like that, so getting healthcare needs settled, and working through the court system, all different kinds of stuff, and it's stressing me out just thinking about all these things. But and then as they have gone through the program a little longer and have established some savings, we help them with debt management and what's going on with their credit and things like that. And then our life skills group is also a weekly session, and that's run by a licensed counselor. And that was a program that was put together by Mickey Thomas, who is one of the first addiction relapse prevention counselors in the country at Ashley. And she kind of put together a whole program that works through different systems about emotions and feelings, self-esteem, spirituality, relationships, all of these things that really most of us in general struggle with, but especially people in recovery from substance abuse struggle with. These things are a lot of stuff that people get hung up on. And and can cause relapse. So we're like, all right, let's work through these things and learn how to do them in a healthy way and get some coping skills and tools together so you can do this when you're not living in the house. And they also come back to that group for 6 weeks after they graduate the program. Then we have education sessions as well, which is another day of the week. And this is something that is community involvement usually. So it's something that any one of you are invited to attend. I know Jessica has come, Pat has come as well. And we have dinner with the residents, so people in the community get to meet the residents, but the main goal of it is to teach them about their community. So they get to learn different skills. People teach resume building. We do acupuncture, equine therapy. We've had people come in that talked about what it's like to lose a child from addiction, so they can get that perspective as well. And to really get them into connection with the community around them and to teach them skills. So it's a really cool experience for everybody. And then to get into a little bit of our finances. So our general operating budget each year is $360,000. So with that, we're providing all of those services to the residents, paying all the household bills, and we're also employing myself. We have a grant writer, and we have Zoe as our case manager as well, and then we have house managers. So all of that is included in that amount of money, and most of our income is obtained through grant writing. So we write a lot of grants. We do all of that in order to keep the rent low for the residents as well. So they're able to contribute to paying their bills, but also that it's not costing them a lot of money. And we're actually we are the lowest rent for a recovery house in the county. So most places it's gonna cost them $160, $180, and that's not including food or any kind of services at all. And we provide all of the services I've been talking about, as well as food and utilities for $125 a week. And so we do that, and we write grants, and most of our money actually comes from all of you, from the county government. And we also get money from private grants and from donations from the community, and also from our annual fundraiser, which I know a couple of you have attended as well. That is so important to us because it allows that rent to stay low, and also it helps the community be involved in what's going on at homecoming. The main thing that I want to point out that why it's important for the county government support and why we're so appreciative of the county government support is we have not been able to get federal or state support for homecoming because we are an abstinence-based program, meaning that we don't have Suboxone or methadone or active opioids in the program. I'm not opposed to maintenance and medicated assisted treatment. I have been on those medications personally, but I was also told by several physicians that I would never be able to live my life without being on those medications, and homecoming taught me that I could. And I've been in recovery for almost 9 years without any of those medications now. So I like to be able to teach people that they can have the level of freedom that I have today, and that they can do that with the support that we provide them. But that is right now the main form of recovery that's being promoted at the state and federal level, so that discounts us from getting funding from those places. So thank you, Harford County government, for continuing to support us. So this is a little bit about what I was just talking about, of what the residents are paying in rent. And they pay an intake payment when they come in, and that's where a lot of our coordination with places like Addiction Connection Resources, Voices of Hope, different churches in the community, they help with paying that intake rent, as well as our own scholarship fund that we have for residents. We never want finances to be a barrier for residents to get into homecoming. And we also continue to support alumni when they graduate the program. So if they come in and they're struggling with food, if they have kids and they're single parents, which is usually the case, we help provide them with food, with household supplies if they need it. And we've also been blessed to be able to provide people with low interest loans for things that they need, and also with money for school and continuing education. And with that, our impressive alumni. So 80% of our graduates remain clean and sober and in recovery. So we get to watch these women come into homecoming without anything, completely broken, homeless for the most part, and put their lives back together, and what they do after they get out of homecoming. And that's where the real magic is. We've been able to help with some of the education, but a lot of them continue their education regardless of our support. 6 have become nurses. 1 is finishing a master's degree as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. 3 have completed master's degrees in social work and nonprofit management. Another one's in graduate school right now. Quite a few other ones are getting their bachelor's degrees and AA degrees at Harford Community College. Most of them that have children when they come into the program that have lost custody regain that custody of their children and are living with them. It's emotional, actually, but it's a really beautiful thing. We've had women, one of which is here, has purchased a house. We've watched people get married, have children in recovery, and become amazing mothers. 15 of our graduates are currently working in the recovery and mental health field, one of which is at the federal level. So these people they come in from the criminal justice system with charges that they're taking from society. And what we've seen is when people go through a program like Homecoming and get into recovery, they want to give back. So a lot of them are working in fields that give back to the community and get involved. And that is the rest of my presentation. So I would like to thank you all so much for allowing me to be here and for listening. And that's all that I have.
Zoe, would you like to add anything?
All I would like to say is that truly it's an honor to be here in front of you guys today, and I don't believe that I would be able to be in front of you guys today if it weren't for a program like Homecoming. So I'm truly just honored and blessed. So I thank you guys for allowing us to come.
Absolutely. So Caitlin, it's been a while since Jeannie and I visited and had dinner with you and the residents, but it was a very, very moving evening. We got to see firsthand the involvement that you have with the residents and how you help them get on their feet and get moving. We've had an opportunity to see some of them out in the public since, and they recognize me before I recognize them and speak and appreciate that. So it is, like you said, you help them, lift them up, get them on their feet, get them moving in the right direction. I think when we were there, 2 of the residents were moving out and getting an apartment together, finding jobs, and just think it's a wonderful thing. So I want to thank you for being here tonight, Ms. Sottles.
Thank you, Caitlin and Zoe. I really, really appreciate not just the great work that you do in the community, but how you guys run the Homecoming Project. And to go there and have dinner, as Council President said, it's an unbelievable experience. Just to meet everyone, and just what you guys do is amazing, and we really appreciate it. So thank you.
Mr. Penman?
Caitlin, Zoe, thank you so much for the presentation. The numbers you mentioned were incredible. 300 lives that you and your program have touched and changed is really godsend. So thank you for the peer support and the follow-through in recovery that your program does, and just here to help in any way, support you. With the budget just coming out, has your budget been affected, do you know, on the projections for FY24?
Yes, it has. We've had a decrease of about $20,000. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Mr. Bennett?
Echo what everybody else said. I think your presentation showed very well that it's cheaper to take care of people than not. And beyond the dollar cost is lives, and I'm just so appreciative of that work. Along those same lines, I want you to know that I've been advocating to make sure everybody's grant and aid is restored. It's unacceptable to take a penny from people like you who do this work in our community. And I've made that clear over and over again. I think everybody has heard me say it's a moral responsibility for us to give at the very least what you got last year. And that goes for the other 13 organizations like you who do this community work. So, what you do matters. It matters to me. And it matters to all of us. So just thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Mr. Guthrie?
Thank you. Katie and Zoe, thank you very much for all you do. I do know a couple people that came through the program, and that's all they talk about. And they're great in the community. They're doing a great job. One question I have for you, I see where you talk about 2,799 people have died from intentional intoxication. Is that all women, or just men and women, or is that just people altogether?
People altogether.
And I guess unintentional means they just kept drinking, not thinking they were going to die? Is that what it means?
Yes, meaning it's separated from statistics about suicide. So it's unintentional of people that are just going about their day, of if they're someone that uses drugs or drinks alcohol and they pass away directly from that use, and that wasn't their intention.
Is it particular mixing the two, or just all alcohol?
It looks like a lot of those statistics are from a combination. I was getting the information from the Opioid Operational Command Center, and they do an excellent job of compiling data on overdose deaths and as well as intoxication deaths. And it does look like a lot of them are from combinations of alcohol and drugs, but they break it down to how many were from each drug specifically and in combination of them. But that number is all of it.
Are you, I am, fond of you, are you concerned about how the marijuana situation is going to, and I prefer to say marijuana, everybody else has these other fancy names. It's marijuana, you know. How it's going to affect the community?
The community in general?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since it's going to be legalized, certainly.
Yes, I know for myself personally, as a person in recovery, alcohol is legal as well. So I tell
Oh.
myself as a person that just because it's legal doesn't mean I can safely use it. I do see it as an issue that people don't take it seriously. So I think good education about what it is important. How to use it safely is important. I do have concerns about it. In terms of legalization, I think that it could be moving in a good direction, but I think that there's going to be issues because I think that's unavoidable.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
Right. I've been trying to educate people because I come from a business agent, president of a union, and I had people, you know, that get involved in it. Like in California, California's got the most liberal marijuana laws in the nation. You know, they saw it all over the place. And but the problem is you have to educate people as to that gets in a system, and it's there for like anywhere from 30 to 60 days, and it's different for different people. But just the fact that you go out partying over the weekend and then go to work Monday, I mean, it isn't like alcohol. Alcohol mostly gets out of your system in 24, 48 hours, but marijuana doesn't. It's 30 days to 60. And then you really have to worry about, more importantly for everybody out there to know, you got to really check on your job. Because if your job doesn't permit you to come to work in a intoxicated or drug condition, then you can very well be fired the Monday morning when you walk on the job. If they tap you on the shoulder, and as it's happened to some of my union guys, tap you on the shoulder and said, you got to go take a drug test, you fail, you're out of a job. So everybody, all the young people out there, you got to think about that very seriously. Make sure you know what your situation is coming on the job. You know, if you're playing with that stuff over the weekend, you got to understand what could happen to you.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie. Anyone else? Caitlin, Zoe, I want to thank you and your group for coming this evening and for the good work that you do. Thank you. Agenda item number 7, approval of minutes. Board of Health update, spring 2023, May 16th, 2023. Public hearing, May 16th, 2023. Legislative day, 23-016, May 16th, 2023. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Being no corrections, the minutes stand approved. And council, before I go any further, if I may, I'd like to welcome council member Ms. Jones from the city of Harford. Grace. Thank you for joining us this evening. Agenda number 8, introduction and consideration of resolutions, we have none. 9, introduction of bills, we have none. 10, introduction and consideration of amendments. Mr. Penman, please read in amendments 1 through 15 to Bill 23-010.
Amendments 1 through 15 to Bill 23-010 Zoning Code Amendment Homestead Chickens, introduced by council members Penman, Bull, Sottles, Riley, Guthrie, and Bennett. Amendment number 1 on page 1 on line 14, strike homestead. Amendment number 2 on page 1 after line 15, insert homestead chicken, a domesticated hen accessory to the residential use. Amendment number 3 on page 2 on line 1, strike and a maximum of 1.99 acres are and substitute is. Amendment number 4 on page 2 on line number 3, strike 50 and substitute 25. Amendment number 5 on page 2, strike the beginning with this in line 5 down through the variance in line 6. On page number 2, strike in their entirety lines 7 through 13 inclusive and substitute zoning certificate requirements and issued zoning certificate shall be required prior to the installation of any coop, run, pen, free-range area, and fence. Number 2, a State of Maryland Department of Agricultural poultry registration shall be submitted with the zoning certificate application. Amendment number 7 on page 2, strike beginning with coop in line 15 down through property in line 16 to substitute coop. Amendment number 8 on page 2, striking beginning with B in line 18 down through ground in line 19 to substitute have flooring in. Amendment number 9 on page 2 and 3, striking beginning with lot in line 20 on page 2 through cleaning in line 1 on page 3 and substitute lot. Amendment number 10 on page 3, strike in their entirety lines 7 through 12 inclusive. Amendment number 11 on page 3 in line 6, strike the lot and substitute lots less than 2 acres. Amendment number 12 on page 2 in lines 14 and 17, strike D and E respectively and substitute C and D respectively. Amendment number 13 on page 3 in lines 2 and 5, strike F and G respectively and substitute E and F respectively. Amendment number 14 on title page in the first line after coop, strike the comma, insert end homestead chicken. Amendment number 15 on page 1 in line number 2 after coop, insert and homestead chicken.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Mr. Riley, please read Amendment 16 to Bill 23-010.
I'm putting this amendment in for Councilman Giordano on page 2 in line 1, strike 1 acre and substitute 1.5 acres.
Thank you. Amendments to Bill 23-013 will not be read in tonight. They're still under review. Agenda number 11, call for final reading of bills. Bill 23-012 also will not be moved tonight. It's on hold. We've had a few issues arise, and we will address those in the next few days. Agenda number 12, enrollment of bills, there are none. 13, unfinished business, we have none. 14, unfinished business, 14, new business, we have none. 17, comments from attending citizens, Ms. Dixon.
Mr. President, we have 2 this evening. John Malamo, followed by Ken Shannon.
Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Sir, good evening to you and your colleagues. John P. Malamo, 2402 Eagle View Drive. Continuing with the DAC meeting, question, how many easements were required and if they have been secured? Answer, not aware of any obligated easements. Question, to attendees, does airport have an easement over their properties? Both responded no. Question, is the site plan complete? Answer, site plan was prepared and the county has asked for revisions. Question, is the site plan approved by the Board of Appeals final? Answer, the site plan approved by the Board of Appeals had conditions. Question, how much plan revision would require another hearing? Answer, if changes adhere to the hearing examiner's conditions, there would be no further hearing. Another attendee stated that the proposed site would change the air pattern around the airport. He's lived with the airport since the 1940s. He felt the extra length of runway will result in bigger planes, which will require a different air pattern. It will affect him as far as noise and livelihood. He thought the air part of the project should be addressed. Mr. Davenport explained the project was not a permitted use by right and was required to go to the County Council and the Board of Appeals. They have issued a decision that the county is obligated to uphold. He added the project has been appealed to the Circuit Court. Attendee did not feel that the property rights of the surrounding areas were being upheld because the property did not stop on the ground but went upwards as well. Mr. Davenport added that information should have been considered by the hearing examiner when the case was heard for special exception. Site Plan S-14-123, the subject of the DAC hearing, was approved on 21 January 2015 and countersigned on 28 January 2015. Signed by Mr. Shane Grimm, then Board of Appeals and Site Plan Review Chief, Mr. Anthony McClune, then Chief, Current Planning Division, and the airport owner developer. The approval letter clearly stated, all conditions of the board approval remain applicable to the development of this project. There was no relief from the zoning code or any conditions of the zoning case 5814. From zoning case 5814 and the site plan, we note only one runway, no approach and landing paths on the site plan. MAA and FAA approved approach and landing paths are required. Aircraft fueling services must be conducted in a fully enclosed building, and no accessory uses are identified on the site plan. Good night.
Thanks, sir. Good evening, sir. Name and address, please.
Good evening. Ken Shannon, 2044 Park Beach Drive in Perryman. I've lived in Perryman for 20 years. During that time, my wife and I have enjoyed living in Perryman and raising our children there. We've also had some hard times there, even disastrous times. One disaster was Hurricane Isabel in 2003, which flooded our neighborhood 4 feet deep. There was a more recent disaster when a train derailed in Perryman near the Amtrak bridge. The most disastrous thing that has happened in Perryman while my family has been living there is the continuing over-industrialization in the community. The water from the flood receded. The derailed train was eventually removed and the site cleaned up. But the tractor-trailer traffic, noise, pollution, and congestion from over-industrialization continues and gets worse. When we moved into our house, there were 1.6 million square feet of warehouses in Perryman. By 2020, there was 7.5 million square feet of
Mr.
mega
Shannon.
warehouses.
Find something else to speak about while we have this moratorium waiting for a public hearing.
Sir, this is about existing conditions.
Sir, find something else to speak about.
It's not that we don't expect change. We expect it to be appropriate for the community. Back in 2006, when a mixed-use development was proposed in Perryman, the Forest Green Perryman Community Association created the Community Recommendations for Sustainable Growth and Quality of Life in the Perryman Peninsula and shared that document with the county in 2008. The first recommendation in the document was construction of a new primary peninsula access road connecting the newly proposed APG boundary road from Route 715 to Canning House Road. The report noted that the road has been proposed in multiple forums and correspondence by the Forest Green Perryman Community Association since 1996. I ask the council, in everything you do, to think about what has gone wrong related to industrial development in southern Harford County and how you can make that better in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
There are no more speakers, Mr. President.
We'll go to agenda number 16, business from council members. Mr. Guthrie.
Thank you, Mr. President. A number of issues going on last week, places I attended. On last Thursday, I attended the Military Appreciation Luncheon honoring the members of the United States Armed Forces at the top of the bay. Our keynote speaker was Cheryl Rolls, who I know well. She's Executive Director of Veterans Benefit Administration. And it's at the top of the bay. If anybody's been there, it's a very nice facility. I kind of like going to events there since I got married there 33 years ago. And so did my wife, by the way. Not only did we get married, my daughter got married there, and then I had a ball there also. So top of the bay has got a lot of memories. On Friday the 19th, I attended the Choose Home Women's Center in Edgewood, along with President Pat Vicente. We had a tour of the facility. facility was formerly called the Epic Center, which, when I was on the council before, I actually got them going with some permits that they were looking for, and Mary Delane James helped with some money from the state and got that place open, and they're doing a great job. The woman that Stephanie Atha, she's the executive director. She gave both me and Pat and Pat's aide a tour of the place, and it's mainly for recovering women, and they just do an outstanding job there. And I tell you, that place, clean and neat. It's just unbelievable how clean and neat that place is. And I asked them if they hired out, but they said no, they don't hire out. Also that night, I attended the annual Rock and Roll Recovery Bull and Oyster Roast hosted by the Voices of Hope and Richard Ballroom, a fundraiser there. Jacob and myself attended that event, and they raised a lot of money for that function. On Saturday, myself and Jacob were also, we were guests at Aberdeen Proving Grounds for their reception for their live firing demonstration. And they were showing us a number of their, which they all look like tanks, but they got a lot of different names for them. And they actually showed them firing and hitting their targets. And they presented, there must have been at least 1,000 people there, if not more. So it was quite an event, and it was quite something to see all those. You can believe your country is in good shape, particularly when all these people are being trained at Aberdeen. But some of those tanks and all, they're shooting those bazookas off. I don't know how in the world the soldiers stay inside them and listen to that noise. I mean, it is tremendous noise. Thank God they gave us plugs for our ears. And today I hustled over, and Pat told me to hustle because I had to go over to Edgewood High School at 6 o'clock tonight and present some legislative certificates to our Edgewood High School International Baccalaureate program. And the class graduated, I think, 38 students. And I was proud to do that because when I was on the council before, that program got started over there at Edgewood High School, and they say it's one of the best programs in the entire nation. So if you got anybody in that, and it's really a tough program to go through. There's a lot of people who fail and flunk out of that, don't get through it. But there's some great kids, and that really makes you feel good when you see these kind of kids that are graduating from school. Also, I just want to touch on something about the capital budget from Harford County, from the state, their capital budget, to let you know what Harford County got from that piece of the budget. They got $33,988,000 directed to the following 10 projects. $4 million for the new district court, $3,593,000 for the Blair Library renovations, $5,915,000 for the Harford Community College Chesapeake Welcoming Center renovations, $802,000 for the Aberdeen Middle School, $6,698,000 for the Harford Technical High School, $10 million for the new Havre Grace surface equipment and automotive maintenance facility, $1,230,000 for Havre Grace Elementary School, $1 million for the Susquehanna State Park Trail Bridge replacement, $600,000 for the camp wastewater system, and $150,000 for the Havre Grace new pickleball courts, for your pickleball courts. I don't think I bring that up to, I don't want to cry the blues here, but if you notice, there's $33,988,000, and none of it's spent in the southern part of the county. So we got to scrape and claw for everything we get down there because it's we can't even get it from the state. So, but I'll hold off that final comment until I see the other budget the operating budget from the state and see what that's what brings us. Also, Tony called me a couple hours ago, and he's about halfway home. He went to Vegas and lost all his money. He's walking, and now he's about halfway home. So I sent him a pair. Overnight, I sent him a pair of tennis shoes. I figured he might need them. Finish his walk. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Guthrie, I think. Mr. Penman.
He'll kill me when he gets here.
Mr. Penman.
I have a concern regarding Bill 2312 that was supposed to be voted on this evening in the unauthorized and illegal transfer of $7 million from the general fund to the emergency medical services budget. This unauthorized transfer of funds is a clear violation of the Harford County Charter, Article 5, Section 516, and Harford County Code, Section 123-17. The county charter clearly states that any transfer or appropriation between departments must have the Harford County Council approval. Bill 2312 was introduced on April 18th and scheduled to be voted on again this evening. During the county treasurer's presentation to the council on May 16th, a request was made to approve the transfer and that EMS had not exceeded their appropriations. Today, during an audit request, it was discovered that the Harford County Administration had already transferred that $7 million on May 2nd, 3 weeks ago, and 2 weeks before they physically came before the council requesting the funds. This either was a deliberate attempt to mislead the council or at the very least display of incompetence. When questioned, the administration indicated that it was a mistake. They were going to transfer it back, if not approved, and only did so to show new amount in a report for the Maryland Association of Counties, an agency that has no budgetary compliance standards or authority of the Harford County Treasurer. After the transfer was discovered, the $7 million was transferred back to the general fund today. This is financial misconduct and requires a complete investigation. While violations of the county code and the charter are in the purview of the sheriff's office to investigate, due to the possible conflict, the sheriff has requested the office of the state prosecutor to conduct the investigation. Surely more details will follow on this. On other news, also concerning the new EMS system, I have learned of another clear and present issue taking place, which hopefully can find a quick resolution. When the county took over EMS operations, they completed an MOU with the local fire companies for certified volunteer paramedics to operate county-owned EMS vehicles. During the last week, one of those volunteer operators was involved in a very minor accident with superficial damage. Subsequently, the county informed the volunteer company that they were responsible for the damage on the county vehicle. However, due to the insurance guidelines, the individual fire company's insurance providers are unable to cover while driving a county vehicle. Therefore, all volunteer paramedics operating under the MOU are no longer able to ride in county ambulances. From my understanding, this has created an extreme hardship on emergency medical responses. I'm hopeful that this can be fixed, and I plan to meet with members of the county as soon as possible. On other news, excuse me, with that, that's all. Actually, no, one more. Sorry. Duplicate. Yes. Now. All right, I have the wrong paper, so we're good. That's all I have.
Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Council President. First off, I hope everybody gets the privilege of wishing our president a happy birthday. He had a birthday over the weekend. He finally, he said he was 39, but Sam corrected him, he's 30. I have 40, so congratulations, Mr. President, reaching 40 years of age. Also, I had the privilege of visiting two schools. One was Darlington, the other one was Church Creek. And while we were at Church Creek, there's a young man come up and told our president he looked dapper. I thought that was an appropriate term. He didn't even have his tie on, but tonight he has his tie on. So, Mr. President, you look more dapper than you did today. Also, I also was at Voices of Hope and the recreation ribbon cutting, which is where if you have stress, you go out, you pay $50, and you get to throw plates at a wall. So anybody here has any stress on the board, you can go over there, and he said that he would take care of you for relieving your stress. Also, I went to the Trauma Reboot Advanced Class Graduation in Oak Grove, and I appreciate Oak Grove putting that on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Ms. Saddles.
Good evening, everyone. On Saturday night, a terrible fire occurred in the Hollywoods community that damaged or destroyed 8 homes, left over 24 people homeless. Thankfully, there was no loss of life. Homes can be replaced, people can't. The president of Hollywood's HOA has started a GoFundMe to help raise money for all those who lost their homes. I would encourage anyone who can to donate. I'd also like to thank our first responders that were on the scene. Certainly without their rapid response, this tragedy could have been much worse. On a lighter note, I will be attending the grand opening of Fresh Start Furnishings tomorrow in Aberdeen. They provide high-quality furniture for disadvantaged families and partner with other organizations. So I'll be presenting a proclamation, and I'd like to congratulate the Harford Community College graduates who will be celebrating their commencement this week. And that's all I have. Have a great Memorial Day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Saddles. Mr. Bennett?
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate what Councilwoman Boyle-Saddles just shared in the Hollywoods community. You know, they're still collecting money through the GoFundMe. You can find the link on my official council Facebook page. As of today, they've raised over $10,000 to help those 8 families displaced, which I just think is tremendous. Over 100 people have donated to support. I mean, that shows you what a community can do in a moment of crisis to help one another. And I just encourage people to continue to do so. You know, it's easy to get support the day after, sometimes harder the week after, the month after, and, you know, it takes a long time to be able to come back from a fire like that. So I just encourage people to please support any way that you can. They were overwhelmed with physical supplies. They're looking for monetary support, gift cards, those types of things. But as Councilman Guthrie shared, we had a weekend together. We went to Voices of Hope, which was a wonderful event. It was great to celebrate that organization, all that they do. And at Demo Day at APG, I was there to make sure Councilman Guthrie put his earplugs in, which took several attempts to convince him to do so, but he did, which is why he can hear me today. But it was a wonderful opportunity to see what they do on Aberdeen Proving Ground. You know, everybody who lives in Havre Grace knows the Facebook posts of what was that bang? And now I know. But in all seriousness, we're so lucky as a community to have that base there, you know, and to have a base that can do work on the land and then in the water, and to be able to test so many materials in a single day that way. It's just unique. It makes them a very unique base here in the United States. In the past week, I visited Meadowvale and Havre Grace Elementary in their Patriot program to celebrate those students. Not to brag, but I think I've taught more Patriot completers than any other councilman here. And it was really great to see the kids and to see their families and to celebrate the work that they did beyond the school day in order to achieve that. I also visited Roy Williams Elementary and Aberdeen High School with Councilwoman Boyle-Saddles to hear about the work that they're doing in their communities, the needs that they have, and the support that we can provide. And then today, you know, I was rushing to our meeting at 7:30 because I got to the council building at 3:45, had my first meeting at 4, and did not stop having meetings until 7:18 when I realized I forgot my pants. So thankfully I had other pants that I was wearing throughout all those meetings, but it did make for an eventful few minutes on my way down here. So anyway, I'm always thankful for the work I'm able to do as a councilman, and in moments of crisis and in moments of celebration, it's just good to be there with my community. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. Agenda item 15, business from the council president. I too want to congratulate all of our first responders and our volunteers. The effort that they put forth on our behalf every day is remarkable. Saturday night, the fire at Hollywoods. Sunday night in Edgewood. Tonight, as we were coming in here to sit down on the dais, we got 5 companies alerted to a possible fire at Falston Middle School. So I don't know what we would do without them, and can't sing their praises enough, and truly appreciate all of our volunteers. So also want to advertise the Adequate Public Facilities Advisory Board meeting, Wednesday, June 21st, 2023, 4:30, second floor, County Council Conference Room. I want to acknowledge the fact that we visited both Norrisville and Bel Air Saturday morning as the sun was coming up to send off our first medic crews, EMS crews at those two companies. Extremely well attended. Congratulate them. Look forward to working with them. Want to congratulate Robin Tomechko and her great team at Harford Family House for an amazing event on the shores of the Susquehanna. The Hoya event, Jeannie and I were the honorary chairs. Just a great event, and I got to congratulate and shout out to my brother, Elio Scaccio from SIAB, on his job singing. Just an amazing voice. Patriot programs, we did Churchville. Jeannie actually did Churchville for me while I was at another event. We did Darlington's Patriot program as well. Tomorrow morning, Jarrettsville. I look forward to all those. We look forward to all of our graduations starting. We will attend, I will attend every graduation. It's going to be difficult, but we're going to do it. Today, we did have a tour of Church Creek Elementary. The principal, Mr. Main, did an outstanding job. And then finally, Jeannie and I wish to express our deepest condolences to the Cahoe family. And also all of us here want to send our condolences to Miss Aurora Cahoe for the loss of her husband and Bob Cahoe, his brother. We ask that you all keep them in your thoughts and prayers throughout this difficult time. So with that, we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.